And I'm going to say officially good morning. And how is everybody today? And I'm going to share my screen. Not that one, this one. I'm going to get myself all situated and we're going to play this from the start. And let's get going. All right, so today we're talking about something that I love, earning the highest commission. I know we're all excited about earning a high commission. And I want to talk about it because we have a very interesting opportunity, I think, now more than ever, because I see the market really picking up. Is everybody feeling that? Yeah, y'all feeling it? You guys can unmute and talk because
Yes, definitely.
yeah,
Yes, it has been. It's been a lot busier.
it is picking up. But I want us to be very in tune to the fact that with more activity, we have to also protect our commissions more. Because you all know what happens when things like this start. People start to slide on commission because they start to say, oh, well, I've got some business, so I can give it here, I could give a little there. I mean, not to say you guys will do that, but we all know that that sometimes happens. Don't have to admit if you've done it. So we want to make sure that we are protecting our commission. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the question that we've all heard from the seller, will you discount your commission? They could say it in a number of ways, right? And there's a lot of ways that we like to answer this question. Does anybody want to share what they like to say when someone says, what was that? Anybody want to share their favorite thing that they say when someone says, will you discount your commission? Nobody wants to share. Linda's not in the room. Maria, you want to share yours? You're unmuted.
Um, it depends on who the seller is. Obviously, situational. If it's under 1 million, or if it's under 5, I start laughing. No, I'm just kidding. So if it's under 5, obviously it's a hard no. But I go into more along the lines of what they're getting, et cetera, et cetera. If it's 5 to 1 million. I'm going to be going into more of not only services, but I get into what's included. If it's over 1 million, it's going to be very situational. So I want to hear what you say on that one.
Okay. Anybody else want to share what they say? What's the first thing they say when someone says, will you discount your commission? Anybody? Anybody?
Carrie, I
Yes.
say this, and I learned this from you,
Mhm.
and it's not backfired on me yet. I reach over and I put my hand on their arm and I say, this is the first way you're going to see how I'm going to negotiate for you when you're not in the room. And I promise you, I'm going to negotiate very hard for you. So my 6% I'm going to stand at.
I like that, Linda. Yes, I always love, I love, and to Maria, to your point, I do love the laugh, and I say, gosh, you are so smart. If I can't even negotiate my commission, how could I possibly negotiate for you? That is so clever of you. Thank you so much for asking that question. That is a great, I learned that one from Judy Leavenworth. That's a great one. That is an old standby. But I want you to also think of this one. And this one is a ninja. This is a good old standby ninja one. Good morning, Miss Anna. So let me ask you a question, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Do you believe that your home is going to sell for a fixed price? Or do you think there's a range based on the value that your agent will have from the knowledge and the negotiation skills of your realtor or your advisor, whatever you want to say? Has anyone ever used that one? Now, it's a little bit of a mouthful, but the key points here is, let me ask you a question. Do you think your home will sell for a fixed price or a range based on the knowledge and the negotiation skills of your advisor? What do you guys think of that?
Probably could backfire depending on the seller because I mean, hopefully they're educated in what we are providing already and they're going to answer the way we want them to. But I could picture a few of them saying, no, it's going to sell for based on the house.
You think someone would say it would sell for a fixed price?
Oh, a fixed price. Okay, I missed
Yes.
that part. Can you
Yes.
can you say it one more time? Can you say it one more time?
Let me ask you a question, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. Do you think your home's going to sell for a fixed price, or do you think it'd be a range based on the knowledge and the negotiation skills of your advisor.
Okay, I was focused on the advisor part. Okay, I see
Yeah.
where you're going. Okay.
Yeah, because the point is, think about it. If you have an advisor who doesn't know how to negotiate or doesn't know anything about contracts, or to your point, like all the things you're going to talk about, right? Do you think they're going to sell for a higher or a lower price?
So in other words, you're guiding them to the conversation that you're going to get an offer. So now you need me.
Well, I'll show you where I'm guiding him, but exactly, I'm going to guide him to the
Mhm.
fact that it's based on the skill
Mhm.
of your
Yeah.
advisor, right?
Like it.
So here you go. Probably, if you explain it well enough, they're going to say, I didn't think about it. It's probably a range, right? Because let me ask you, is there ever really a fixed price that a home will sell for? Because if they say it's a fixed price, so you say, okay, so if that's true, then any home with the same square footage, with the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms should sell for the same thing, right? Because if they all sell for a fixed price, then they all have the same price tag on them, right? Right? Because isn't that the response? If there's a fixed price, you follow me? Then it's just like a car. It's all, so every 3 bedroom, 4 bathroom in this neighborhood should sell for the same price. Oh, well, no, mine's better. Oh, so then it would be a range, wouldn't it? You follow me? So if it's a range, you want to be where? At the top of that range, right? So this is a great news, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I personally have a strategy to get you at the top of that range. So this is the key, and this is the ninja suggestion. And I like the idea because what do we sell, guys? We sell with all of our stuff that we have a process. We have a strategy, right? What do I always like to say? Hope is not a strategy, right? Hope is not a strategy. We come in with tools, resources. What is our marketing plan? It's a strategy, right? That's why we have that beautiful marketing plan. We come with what our social media strategy is. We come with our print. We come with our email. We come with all of these things. Who nobody else has that, right? So we have a strategy to get you to the top of the range. Does that make sense? So, and we're going to walk you. So now, what is the 5 things in a strategy? This is what we're going to talk about. So what do you guys think before we hit them all? What do you think of? There's 5 things I'm going to tell you right now that go into a strategy. What do you think they would be? Well, you see the first one because I gave it up. Dang it. First one is staging. It's going through the property to prepare it to sell the best, right? Now, do we do that? We walk them through the property. We tell them the best way to enhance it, whether it's going to be staging, whether it's going to be preparing it in terms of getting it ready for the exterior, getting it ready for the pictures, right? Preparing it virtually, preparing, however we're doing it, right? Getting them to clean up their house, getting to put stuff in storage, right? But that's when we have the whole list, the to-do list that, you guys have seen me pull out that we have. What is that list called again? The ABC list, right? That is the first part of that strategy. How many people do that? How many other realtors, we're not a realtor, we're an advisor, but how many realtors actually do that? So here's where we could pull out our ABC list and we could actually say, as a matter of fact, we have a whole ABC list that we're going to go through together to make sure that your property is ready to go. It's in tip-top shape because we know people don't go online to pick your property, right? They go online to eliminate your property. Straight. It's like
I
swipe
like
left,
that.
swipe right.
I like that line.
We want them swiping the right way. And I don't know what way that is because I haven't been on those sites, but I'm just saying. Can someone tell me is it swipe left or swipe right? Which one is the good one? I don't know. Is it left or right? Does anybody know? Is it right? Okay, we want is it? I don't know. Anyway, let's avoid that if we don't know that answer. But okay, but yes, we don't want them to eliminate it, but that's why people go online. They go online to eliminate it. They're not going online to pick it. Oh, okay. Dang it. I gave it away. The next thing, you saw it. What's the next thing we have to do? What's the next strategy? We have 5 strategies. We have preparing it. So we'll call it staging, but preparing it for show. What's the next thing out of the 5? Did you see it? Did you see it? You didn't see it? Are you guys see it online? What do you think the next thing we do? Next strategy. That's part of like preparing it, but not quite. It's pricing, guys. We have to do a pricing strategy. That's critical. We have to prepare them so we don't price it too high, because if we price it too high, it's going to scare away the buyers. But if we price it too low, we're going to leave money on the table. Now, that's a key thing to say, because if we don't say it like that, we're letting them know two things right here. We're letting them know we're not going to let you price it too high, because if you price it too high, this is what's going to happen. You're scaring away buyers. But we're also telling them right now, we're not going to let you price it too low because we don't want you to lose money. See, that's the key thing about this sentence right here. It's a great sentence because we're taking away two fears right there. We're taking away two fears. One, that you won't sell it, right? That's one of the number one fears of a seller, that they won't sell their home. But what's the bigger fear? They're going to lose money, right? So this sentence right here takes away both of those fears. So my second strategy is a pricing strategy. And you see, by us stating these things, we're telling you, we're not just going to come in here and let you tell us how to sell this home. We're not going to let you tell me what the home is worth, because frankly, you don't know, right? We're going to create a strategy, and we're not just going to let the market tell us. It's going to be a strategy working with the market, right? So that we're not overpricing it based on the data from the market, but we're not going to let you leave money on the table either. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? Any questions about this so far? Now, we have some great leveraging strategies. So for example, I want you to think of these. And now I'm going to talk about luxury homes because, you know, those are my favorites. But luxury homes are unique assets. So we're going to use urgency to highlight limited availability. We're going to use market demand. We're going to use show off property one of a kind appeals, right? Because we understand that people that are in this bracket, their mindset is they hate missing exclusive opportunities, right? So we're going to frame your opportunity as rare and irreplaceable investment opportunities. Sometimes they're legacy opportunities. So you're going to use this type of language when we're talking about that pricing strategy. Does that make sense? We're not just going to say we have a pricing strategy. We're going to actually infuse this type of language into it when we're talking about it, so they understand we're not just saying we have a pricing strategy. We're actually showcasing that we do know what we're talking about. Does that make sense? And then what would be another thing? Okay, so we've talked about what? Preparing the home to show, right? Staging, cleaning it up, that kind of thing. Pricing it. Now what do we have to do? What is our number one job? I always like to say. Exposure, guys. You guys don't know me, so you don't know that. My marketing plan will give you maximum exposure so we can attract more buyers and get more contracts. The more buyers and contracts you have, the higher your property will sell. This is totally true, right, guys? So this is a beautiful thing, because when you are on our listing presentation, do we not create our one and only marketing plan, right? That we have done for that. You haven't seen the one I use, but we have one that's created for each property. It's beautiful. Anna, do you have yours? Did we do yours? Your marketing plan? Good. But the point is, most people don't show up. Like if you're competing against this property, most people don't show up with a marketing plan. Have you noticed that? And we have one that's created specifically for the property, which is beautiful. And it talks about everything we're going to do. It even has a 30-day plan. It goes through everything. And it really is everything Premier Sotheby's going to do, but it's a beautiful thing. Right, guys? It's like, but then we can add into it things that we're going to do as well if we choose to. So now we have covered, oops, darn it, I went ahead. We have covered 3 of the things, right? We've covered, what did we cover? We covered preparing it to show with the staging and all that. We've covered pricing. We've covered marketing. Now, what is number 4? What is the next most important thing you have to do? Yes, Anna. Did you see it? Ah, you're so right. Negotiation. That's what you are, a negotiation. Anyone who's seen what I've created on your testimonial page, you're the luxury negotiation specialist, right? I'll help you negotiate the best contract. Negotiation is an important skill in any market, right? Now, how many points of value? Let's see. Let's look at a negotiation that we have right here. You've got the price, you got to negotiate the terms, you got to negotiate the dates, inclusions, exclusions, and all contingencies. So that is a lot of points of negotiation. There's actually 80 different decisions they're going to have to make during a contract. Did you guys know that? 80 different decisions. You're going to help them with all of those things. So these are not just things that you randomly, that's why when you're filling out a contract, and you got to say this, you know, people who filled out contracts that don't really know what they're doing, they leave blanks. That's how we know how well somebody knows how to negotiate. You know how many times we receive contracts that are blank? These people don't know how to negotiate. Those were all points of negotiation. When you left blank the interest rate, you missed an opportunity to negotiate. You know how many times, guys, have you received contracts with all that blank and under financing? Those were opportunities for them to negotiate for their buyer. Also, they were opportunities of contingencies for their buyers that they didn't take. So as the seller, you have an opportunity to negotiate with each one of those points when you're getting it back. Those are points for you to negotiate back. And if they left it blank, great, we love that. They didn't negotiate anything. I love that. But see, oftentimes it's because their agent didn't know what they were doing. So people who give you blank contracts, they're terrible agents. They're not representing their customers. But this is where your chance to showcase that you know, when you're explaining to your customer, you have to explain to them the nuances of the contracts. You don't leave any blank lines unless it's not applicable to that contract. Like it's talk about Miami-Dade, right? Obviously, why would you fill that in? We're not in Miami-Dade. But you're not going to leave any blanks because if you leave a blank, you're missing an opportunity to negotiate for your customer. That's how you should talk about the blanks, unless you're representing the buyer. If you're representing the buyer, what do you say? It's an opportunity to protect you. Those are opportunities for contingencies. That's what those are. But if you are the seller, those are opportunities for negotiation, right? Because they're submitting it to you. So that you have to negotiate each one of those contingencies, right? That's what that is, right? Does that make sense? And those are all terms, dates, inclusions and exclusions. It's like, for example, I'm going to ask this question. This just came up in a contract. I got a call from a very, very good advisor who had a contract and they were representing the seller. And the seller was at closing and the buyer said, we're not going to close because the garage was missing the extra third refrigerator. Or is it the second refrigerator? I think it was the second refrigerator. And she said they didn't write it into the contract. They don't get to keep the contract. They don't get to keep that refrigerator. Is that true? Is it included or is it not, guys? I got a not. What do you think, Anna? They did not write in an extra refrigerator. Is it included or is it not?
Was it in the amount?
There was nothing written in about an extra refrigerator.
If it's not in there, the regular refrigerator would be, but not the garage one because it's not written in.
It's
Yes.
as it's seen on when they viewed it. Was it there when they viewed it?
Oh boy, so much fun. Hold on. We gotta this is where the fun starts. Hold on. We gotta go in here for a second.
It wasn't in the MLS and if it wasn't in the contract.
Now we gotta have a little fun now, guys. Hold on. Hold on. This is why we gotta do these little classes. I love that. Hold on, we gotta go in. So how many of you think it should be included? How many of you think it shouldn't?
Should be included.
Oh, Maria,
Be-
sound like you changed there. I think I heard a change.
No, because I said, was it included? Was it there
Oh, at the
when they viewed the
time when you,
property?
oh, I see. Okay, well, let's see. Let us see. So this was an as-is contract. We're just going to go to an as-is contract.
Mhm.
And let's take a peek at the contract. Now, under personal property, this is what you all need to pay attention to. It says, unless excluded, which is right here, E,
Harry, we
in
can't
paragraph
see.
E, right? Oh, can you guys cannot see? Hold on. Share my screen right here. Okay, now y'all can see what I'm seeing. Y'all see the contract? Okay, says right here, under line right here, 15, right? Unless excluded in paragraph 1E, which is right down here, which is line 24, or other terms of other contract, the following items which are owned by the seller and existing on the property as the date of the initial offer are included. And notice it says refrigerators with an apostrophe with an S in there. They did not have to write it on this line. If there was an extra dishwasher somewhere, or an extra oven, or an extra ceiling fan, or an extra, it doesn't matter. It's assumed included. The only thing not here is a washer and dryer. Y'all see that?
So it was there when they walked through, they saw it,
It
so they
was
assume
there when they
they
walked
get to keep
through.
it. Yep.
It's theirs. Exactly right. This is the nuances of the contract that you guys have to understand. And these are the little stories that you need to walk in with. Because when you're representing the seller, you don't want to be the person on that side, because guess what the seller had to buy? Actually had to pay to bring it back because it was already moved out. In this instance, it was actually sad to say, our advisor who did it, because they felt responsible. But the reality was, it really was the seller. But the truth of the matter is, you need to be on top of those things because it's in the contract. Now, that as of the contract part language went in there about 2 years ago. That was an addition to the contract about 2 years ago. I was really happy when they added that language because that was not always in there. And that really made a huge difference, because it doesn't matter about the MLS. Unless the MLS, and even if the MLS says it, because at the bottom of every page in the MLS, it states this is merely for marketing purposes. The MLS means nothing. They can write as per MLS. That means nothing. Unless they incorporate the MLS into the contract, the MLS is useless. Now, could they sue and Listen, anybody could sue. Now we're in a whole different ballgame. But the MLS is truly nothing. What matters is what's in the contract. And the contract states it right there. So this is where you have to be super careful. You guys with me? Okay. So continue to share. Interesting stuff, right? So when we talk about the points of the contract, slideshow from current slide. There's a lot to know about that contract. This is why you all have to be experts of the contract. Another thing you need to be an expert of contracts. You need to know the difference between the as-is and the residential. Can someone give me a really good reason why, as a seller, you might want to use a residential versus an as-is?
You have an old roof.
Exactly right. You have an old roof, and if you have a as-is contract, they can get out for any reason. But if you have a residential contract, they cannot, right? And that old roof is not a reason, and it is not something that's considered the seller must repair or replace. Absolutely a great reason why I would use a residential contract. 150%. Great point. So now polybutylene piping, what about that one? Doesn't help you. I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. It doesn't matter whichever one you use, polybutylene pipe is going to come back at you. Sorry.
I got one for you. Got one for you,
Yeah,
Garrett.
yeah, hit me.
Cloth wiring.
Well, that one could come back at you because it depends on how the inspector writes it. Because if
Okay.
the
4
inspector
points clear.
writes, If
4 point
inspector
square.
writes must repair, must replace, then you may have to still replace it. It depends on how the inspector writes that in the. So now, could the seller go back and get another inspection? Yeah, they could fight it, but some inspectors say that it has to be replaced and some don't. So that's why the wiring is one of those things.
Yeah, because it is insurable. Cloth wiring
It
is
isn't insurable,
insurable.
but there
Yeah.
are inspectors who say that it must be replaced.
Yeah.
So
I'd go
that's
as
why
is,
I'm saying
but
that's like going to be a hit or miss thing.
yeah.
So
So
if you
you'd say
have
as is, right?
I would, well, it doesn't really matter. If you're with the seller, it's kind of like it's hit or miss. Like they may make you replace it or not. If you go with an as is, guys, remember, if you have an as is contract, do you have to do anything? No. So if you have an as is, you don't plan to do anything, you're better off saying as is because then you can say, sorry, I don't plan to do anything. Good luck changing your wiring. Good luck changing your roofing. I've told you I'm not doing anything. So that's the point of the as is. What happens is people do it anyway. So that's the point. But with the residential contract, if they write must repair, must replace, if you have the wiring, you may have to repair it. But if they do the roof, it doesn't matter. The roof says clearly it's not an item that must be repaired or replaced. Wiring could be construed as something that would have to be repaired or replaced. So because it could be something that could be safety issue, it just depends. So yeah, it's one of those things. But interesting though.
Terry,
Yes,
you talked about polybutylene piping.
piping. Mhm.
That's a non-insurable.
That's what I'm saying. You just can't get around that one. Yeah, polybutylene, you're just in it for that one. That's why I said it doesn't matter which one you use. Poly is poly. Good luck with that. Yeah, 100%. So,
I recently had to deal with that.
yeah, that you're just if you got it, you got it. Now, if you've been told by an inspector that you have it, does it mean you have it?
No.
No, it doesn't. I'm going to tell you, we've had inspectors that say you have polybutylene piping and you don't. Always get a plumber to tell you for sure you have it because oftentimes, I don't want to say often, but I'm going to say on a few times you don't. There was a condo building actually. There's one inspector kept telling all these condo owners that they all had poly, and so they all kept changing it. I don't know if it was some kind of scam, but none of them had it. Yeah, it was terrible. So yeah, always make sure you verify that with a plumber because, or it could be like one little section that happened to have it and not the rest of the house, and they're making you replumb the whole house. That's another thing. Wasn't that you, Keith, who they did that? It was only one little section and they were trying to make them replumb the whole house.
Yeah, no, the plumbers wanted to redo the whole house, but everywhere you could see, with the exception underneath the sink in the kitchen, everything else was copper. So we're like, no,
Yeah.
we're not, we don't want you. I had the buyer. We're
Yeah.
not gonna make you replace everything, but we do
Yeah.
want the polybutylene in the kitchen replaced.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to be careful. When you have poly, it doesn't mean it's everywhere. It could just be in a specific area. So, but these are the things, these are the stories that you need to share when you're talking contracts. People don't understand how intricate these things can get. And if you don't have knowledge of them, you don't want to find out, first of all, in the middle of their contract, number one. But number two, you want them to understand what goes into the knowledge part of this, because if they get somebody who doesn't know, they could be the ones having to pay for polybutylene for a whole house replumb when they didn't have it because they have a realtor who's representing them who doesn't know, right? So the point is, if sharing these stories lets them know your level of knowledge, your level of experience, and that's why they're paying you for your commission, because it's going to cost way less to pay you 3% on your list side than to pay to replumb their whole house, right? So that's the point.
Carrie,
So yes.
I will tell you too, this is not a thing up north. So if you have northern people coming down to purchase, it's a huge value add for them because we do not have these types of situations up north. We generally only have copper.
Yeah, true
that's
story.
freezing. So yeah, this is not a thing up north at all. And I had to research it, and you will definitely want to educate northern buyers.
That is a true story. Northern buyers have other weird things, but they but they don't have that. That's a good point.
That's a fact.
Very true. And then contingencies. Guys, contingencies are one of those things that people just don't understand. What you need to explain to them is realtors often don't understand contingencies either, and they'll write them in themselves when they should be written in by attorneys, or use the ones that are actually written for by the legal the bar association. And so like my favorite that I love to talk about was when people still to this day, I saw one 2, 3 weeks ago that they said, something about the home must appraise, kind of ridiculous language. It means nothing. If you write the home must appraise, what does that mean, guys? It must be appraised. It must have an appraisal. What does that mean? It means nothing, right? It must appraise for what? For how much? And what if it doesn't appraise for whatever number that you didn't write down, right? Like, what then? It means nothing. The reason that attorneys write these is because they say it must appraise for a certain amount by a certain date. And if it doesn't, then what will happen? It is that's why they're so long, because they talk about the entire process. And remember, when you write in a contingency, right? When these things are written, or the contract in general, who is it really written for? Is it written for the buyers and sellers? It's actually written for the judge. The idea is if this has to go to court, a judge who's hearing the case will be able to determine who is deciding the case, who gets it. That's who it's really written for. It's really not even written for the buyers and sellers. Now, the buyers and sellers are agreeing to it. That's why it has to be in language they understand. But it's not written for us. It's not written for the attorneys who are writing. It's written for the judge who's hearing for the case. That's why it has to be written very clearly, because 9 out of 10 times, of course, the judge is not going to have been involved in it. So they have to be able to understand the entire thing, right? So when you write something so silly as the home must appraise, what does that mean? Right? We've all seen it. We all see it. So when we see these things at even like honor before, that doesn't mean anything. We still see people doing that when they add in honor before. If the attorneys who wrote the contract wanted it to say honor before, why wouldn't they have used the extra ink to write honor before? It doesn't say honor before in the contract because that invalidates the contract. If you add in honor before, your contract is invalid. And if somebody wanted to force that contract, they could invalidate the whole contract. I don't want to be part of a contract that I just got my seller or buyer out of, right? That's a bad thing, because then they can sue you. This is why we don't want to write the contract incorrectly, right? So you got to be very careful when you deal with these contracts, and so many people don't know that. So these are the things you want to share when you are. Could you imagine, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, somebody wrote honor before, they got involved in a lawsuit and they lost because their realtor wrote honor before.
Well, what about an addendum? That's exactly right.
Cannot write honor before.
Even on the addendum.
Especially, it's the same thing. The title companies,
Because
I almost said something mean. The title companies do not know what they're doing either, unless it's an attorney, which never would write honor before. Title companies they don't know what they're doing either. They just see other realtors doing it, so they do it.
So never.
Never write honor before. Thank you for admitting that, Anna. Thank you. Thank you for admitting that. Listen, unfortunately, it's, what is it? Monkey see as monkey do. That's what the title companies do. Don't write honor before, because unless people know the specific day it's closing, it's not valid. That's the point. Call the legal hotline. They love that question. They go ballistic on that question. Yeah, just have some fun and call them up. Don't just use someone else's ID, a nerd's number that you don't know, that you don't like. You pretend you're them. Don't tell them it's you. Yeah, that's better. But yeah, because the point is, there's a few points that have to be in a contract to make a contract valid. One, you have to have a meeting of the minds, right? 2, there has to be earnest money. That's why when people think there's a VA and you have to have earnest money. No, without earnest money, there is no contract. And 3, there has to be an actual closing date. Because without those things, you don't have a contract, right? Because people don't know what is happening. There's no meeting of the minds. So if you write honor before, there's no actual date. Well, what is the closing date? I don't know. Right? What if parties don't agree? Because you said or before. Now you don't have an agreement to what the date of closing is. You see, that's the problem with the or before. So that's why you cannot do that. If you could say in an email, if we're all ready, we'd be happy to close before, no problem, but it's not part of the contract.
Okay.
So if you have to write 5 addendas with changing the date, you write 5 addendas changing the date. This is the new closing date. No, it's not that one. This is the new closing. You just keep changing, writing new addendas. You can write as many addendas as you want. It doesn't matter. But you cannot write on or before. And if the title company tells you to do that, you say, oh, really, is that what your attorney said? Because they probably don't have one. Yeah. And you say, well, our attorney says you cannot do that. It invalidates the contract. I hope you've not done that as a practice. And they'll go, oh, see me? Yeah, trust me. Yeah. That is just the way it is. And they just don't know that, but that's what they do. Yeah, people do it all the time. People do it all the time. Exactly. It's like people who write, I can tell you, I still see home must appraise. It makes me laugh. The home must appraise. I just saw one.
Especially when they don't even spell appraise right. That's my first favorite one. I'm gonna
Mm.
frame the next one that comes through. 1 out of
They-
5.
there's- Listen, and people have asked me, Carrie, what do I do if I get that on the contract? You leave it. We are not representing their customer. We love that because what does that mean when the home does not have an appraisal that meets the actual purchase price of the home? Nothing, because they don't have an appraisal contingency. If they wanted one, they needed to use the addenda,
Yeah.
right?
It did appraise. There's a dollar amount it appraised for. I guarantee it appraised for something.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't appraise because their lender didn't require an appraisal. And that's not on us, that's on their lender. So what does that have to do with us? Nothing. Go talk to your financing department at your lender. That's nothing to do with us. So I'm not even involved in that, right? So there you go with that one too. But these are things that you need to share with your seller. These are all true stories. If you need a true story on any type of contingency, Lord, I have them. I have so many of them. I hate to say they're all true, but yeah, all of them are true. But these are great things to share because people don't understand this, and this is what makes you such a value. The other thing is that you have all of this at your fingertips. And if we need a legal addenda written, we have attorneys that write them for us all the time for free, right? That is a wonderful thing. It's because we have great relationships in this industry. And that is, you know how many people don't have that? I find it all the time. People do not have that. So we do, and that's a great benefit. So you don't say to the seller, we have attorneys who work for us for free. That is not what we share. But we do share that we have, all sorts of support for them, right?
That's actually a great point, Carrie, because before joining Premier, I paid out of pocket to have a real estate
Mhm.
attorney on retainer. Every month I wrote him a check to make sure one was available to write this and cover these things. So he'd pick up the phone when I called him. I don't have to do that anymore.
Yep. And I'll tell you, I told Angela to call Phil about something that we were dealing with. And she's like, why will he pick up my call? I said, he'll pick up your call because you work with me. And he does. And Phil will pick up anyone's call that works for Premier Sotheby's because he is wonderful. And if he needs to write an addendum, my God, poor guy, he's on speed dial for me. And I use that all the time. He will write any addendum we need. He's amazing. He's so wonderful. We love Phil. He's fabulous. Phil, Ness, we have so many wonderful people we work with. We are very blessed.
You're so committed to it that you're actually making your son go to law school just so you can have a third.
That's right, because I need extra help. But yeah. Then the other thing that we need to talk about when we're talking about this is the power of pre-negotiating positioning. So we need to share with the seller that we also use historical sales data, architectural pedigree, the ownership narrative to justify your pricing before we even present it. So that way, when we're presenting it to buyers, we're presenting it with confidence. So it's not just that we're coming up and we're negotiating with real numbers, so if somebody comes back to us, for example, like with Peyton, with her last offer, we come back armed with real statistical data, with real narrative about pricing. We don't just say, well, that's just the price and that's what it is. We actually have a strategy, even in the counter offer negotiation situation. So this is a very important thing that they understand. Negotiation is not just one and done, and it's done with real data. And they need to understand that because most people don't do that. I mean, how many times, they submit an offer and they'll just say, sorry, this is just what it is. This is what the seller wants. I mean, we've all heard that, right? Well, I'm sorry, especially in the luxury space, that doesn't work because you oftentimes have to work to, I mean, poor Peyton. Peyton, are you on? Peyton's under contract. Woo! My God, she worked so hard for that. Oh, but she's double siding another 4.5. Good for her. Just the second time. She's killing it. The other thing, we need to understand that we have to be the one to control the narrative and price negotiations. We are the ones who are framing the price discussions. We're framing the investment potential. It's not just comps, which is what she had to do on that 4.5. We're emphasizing market appreciation, tax advantages, legacy value. We're also, instead of just reducing prices if need be, we're offering luxury incentives, which is exactly what she did. We're crediting, we're adding high-end furnishings. We're offering sometimes add-ons with club memberships or things like that. These are things that we're sharing when we're talking about negotiation. We're not just simply dropping price. We are coming up with other ways to negotiate, especially if you're in the luxury space, guys. Negotiation is not always about price. A lot of times it could be about, maybe it's about the timing about when they're closing. Maybe there, for example, Jill Hendenberg, I don't think she's on. She's up in Ocala. We have a deal right now. I think we're at 189, something like that. We may do a lease to own at full price for 1 year, but we're getting a full price. I mean, we're doing all sorts of creative things just to get the full price. And I mean, whatever it takes. And Ness is helping us write that. This is why we work with Ness. So these are things because this person needs a tax advantage and, it's just things that work out. We do sometimes, Ness is our 1031 like-kind exchange. Sometimes we do reverse 1031 like-kind exchanges. So these are things that we need to be experts at. And this is what we're explaining to the seller because this was something that we needed to do to make that deal happen. This is a deal up in Micanopy. This is going to be a fabulous one. God willing, it works. We're trying. But the most important thing is that they need to understand that we are going to be the ones controlling the clock. If we control the timeline, we're going to be controlling all who's showing it, when they're showing it. That's how you control the urgency. If they're always seeing it by themselves, they don't know other people are seeing it, then they don't understand that there's demand on the property. So sometimes if we know people are going to come see it, we try to keep them together so that they see that there's urgency, that other people are looking at it. So these are things that we're going to do, that we're going to share in our listing presentations to help build up our commission. These are things that we do all the time, but we have to be able to explain it when we're trying to get our commissions, right? If you're in a luxury, and I'll tell you, I think it was actually Maria who thought that the luxury listings that you actually you reduce your commission. It's actually in the luxury listings that we keep our commissions high usually. Those are the ones who actually, not only they're a lot of work, but those people that really appreciate and are willing to pay for it. But I think if we share this, even in a lower price point, and we let them know all the things that we do, and we're going to continue to do this even in their price point, they appreciate that and they'll be willing to pay more for our services because they'll realize they're going to get a higher return on their investment, right? Does that make sense? So does anybody have a thought about things that you've done to control the clock that's helped you in your negotiation strategy? Anything that anybody's done that I want to share? Or not? Okay. All right. Also, the last thing, number 5, and probably the most time-consuming thing we do is we are the transaction manager, right? So there's so many moving parts, and my job is to handle the parts so your contract closes on time, right? That is the most important part of people don't realize. We're the ones running, but they never see us sweat, right? There's so many moving parts to this, and that is really probably the largest part of our job. So there's over 80 decisions and details that happen, and we need to have them happen. Sometimes they don't even realize they've made 80 decisions, but they have because we've done it in such a smooth process. Now that is so my fee to deliver this level of value to you is 3%. I think they should pay us 4. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I feel 3.5. I mean, go for it, right? What do you guys feel? Do you feel that this is a very smooth and easy way to say that? No, nobody has anything to say on that one. Okay, but here you go. Again, knowledge is power, guys. So when you're talking about transaction management, another thing you need to share is about how you preset everything. You educate the buyers early. So you're going to be getting everything together. You're going to be making sure that all the addendas are in there. If there's anything you need to know in regards to flood zones, anything about a hurricane mitigation, insurance premiums, maybe there is an older roof, so we're going to be finding out insurance if they need to find out about insurance. For example, if we need to recertify a roof, we had that situation with that one up in Beverly Hills, Florida. The roof is, I think, 20 years old, but it is a slate roof that is a 50-year roof. Well, we know that a lot of people are like, oh, I want a new roof, but it's a 50-year roof. So we had the roof recertified. We had that done before we went on the market. So that way, when we put it on the market, we had it on the market with a new certification. So when they brought it up, we were ready with it. We were armed with that. These are the kinds of things that you share before when you're in that meeting. You say, so your roof is how old? I've already done the research. Where are some of the places that we can do some of that research? Do you guys remember? I'm going to show you real quick. Hold on. We're going to break off here. Can you guys all see my screen here? Contracts, you guys see where I'm going? Everybody see
Yes.
that? Okay, good. Logos Law. This is a great site. I don't know if you all saw this when we went here. Logos Law has got amazing stuff right here. So if you go to the resources page, look at all of this amazing stuff. So if you want to search for any open permits, right here, Orange and Seminole, right here. If you want to go to any state and government links, you go right here. So this is all of the counties right here. So you can go to any county that you want to. You can view them all right here. So let's say we want to look at Orange County. We can go to Orange County right here. We can look through all public records right here. So we want to go to, let's go back. Logoslaw.com. You want to do a mortgage calculator. You want to do a date calculator. This is super important. You want to double and triple check when the deadline for financing is, when the deadline for inspection is, whatever that is. This is where you can do it. You can count your days right here. You put in the start date, the end date right here. You can put that all in right there just to make sure you're right. Now, remember, all dates now are calendar, and that includes land. And I don't know if you know that. The land contracts have changed. Now, starting the new year, all land contracts are also calendar days. No more business days. Same thing with commercial. That's all been changed as of the new year. Thank the Lord. I'm so happy. That's a great change. So you can forget that. Now, obviously, if it ends on a weekday or a holiday, which President's Day is a holiday, it would move to tomorrow. So that's the same, but it's no longer business days. So there is no business days. So anybody who considers business days, the only thing that is business days is Stellar MLS. That is the only thing that's business days. Okay. So this is a great one, the calendar right there. And then in here as well, you have a mortgage calculator if you need that, which we also have on our website. You know that from Select Lending right here. And then if you want to go here, you can put in here, and then you can pull up a net sheet right here on Logos Law. So you have all this information right here. And then when you pull up the, get a quote, title quote or net sheet. So you log in. This is on Logos Law. You say, get a quote. Remind me later. Let's see, you want to do seller's net sheet. You say run a net sheet, and then you put in the information, and it'll give you a whole net sheet right here with your information on it. But more importantly, with fills, because God forbid the information's wrong, who is liable? Bill. because it's got his information on it. We never want, that's why I don't like to use the blank net sheet forms in RM.loop. Don't use that, because then you're responsible if you miscalculated or forgot something. You don't ever want to be responsible for that. So always do that through a title company. So he's got some great stuff right on here. All sorts of good stuff. So again, you don't have to go searching through IMAP. You don't have to go try to find it through Realist or any of that. You don't have to go through Orange County. You just go to Logos Law and he has everything right in there for you. He's already done all the work. All right, let's go back over that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things we covered. Again, 5 things that we handle for them. What is it? We do the staging, right? Then what next? Pricing, next. Negotiation, right? What else are we missing? Marketing and transaction coordination. That's a lot of things, guys. If you're telling me that that's not worth 3%, I think we're charging too little. I'm just saying. I think we can get more. Anyone want to take the question? Anyone want to try that about what you would say that do you think your home would sell for a fixed price, or do you think it would sell for a range based on the knowledge and the negotiation skills of your advisor? Anyone want to try that? I will be happy to send that out, but that's something you should practice. Do you guys like that one? And and it's just a conversation then you're having, because Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's 5 things that we do for you. There's staging, it's price negotiation, right? Marketing management, which is exposure strategy, right? Then there's, of course, the transaction management. And what's the last one I didn't hit? Negotiation, right? Negotiation strategy. We're going to go into all of those things. I'm going to share all of those things that we're going to do for you. And if you are not versed in every one of these things, the person who's going to lose out is you. For example, pricing strategy. If we price your home too high, we're going to scare away the buyers. But if we price it too low, you're the one who's going to lose out. You're going to leave money on the table. So if I don't actually have a pricing strategy that works for you, then you're the one who's going to lose out, right? So we're going to talk about that pricing strategy together. Maximum exposure, if I don't come in here with and then this is where you show your book. If I don't come in here with a beautiful, marketing program for you of how we're going to get you in front of the most qualified people wherever they are in the world, how am I going to get you the maximum exposure? Because we have found, especially through COVID, the best way to get you the highest price is to get you the most amount of offers. To get you the most amount of offers, your home has to be seen by the maximum amount of people. Well, we can't keep regurgitating it through the maximum amount of people around here in Central Florida, or not even just the people that see it through Stellar or see it on Zillow. We know that that's not the maximum amount of people, and that's certainly not the most qualified people. If we need to get it through the most qualified people, these are the people who are going to see it in the Wall Street Journal, the July, the James edition, the Mansion Global. You see what I'm saying? This is how you're going to bring up what Sotheby's does, right? And then we know people aren't actually going to go look at these places to see your home, to pick your home. They're going to go there to eliminate your home. So we can't just put your home on, especially, my God, take your pictures with my phone. Now, my phone's pretty nice, but that's not the best way to showcase your home, is it? We need to hire fabulous photographers. We need to have cinematic videography. But before we do that, we need to make sure your home is show ready. And to do that, we have a whole list. It's called an ABC list. We're going to walk through your home. We're going to make sure we set it up perfectly, because we know we have one chance and one chance only to get them to want to see your home, not to eliminate your home. Right? You follow what I'm saying here? So there's no sense in even doing maximum exposure if we haven't done it right. So we have to see what I'm saying? We might not have done it in that order. We might have backed it out and done it a little differently. And then we got someone who sees it, someone who wants it. Now they want to put in a contract. They want to put in an offer. Well, I better be ready. I better be an expert negotiator, because there's 5 different sections alone that I have to negotiate. It's not just the price. It's the terms. It's the dates. It's the contingencies. And it's what we're going to include and exclude of those contracts. And if I don't know every one of those lines in that contract, if I have not studied that contract and know it inside and out, and I know the different types of contracts, the as is versus the residential, if I don't know those things inside and out, how could I possibly help you? So if you're interviewing anybody else, I'd ask them, which one do you prefer, the as is or the residential? And I make them say that, because you know what? Nobody knows that residential contract. They will stumble on that. Oh, I don't know. I never use that contract. And if I would say, I'd ask them why. Because the answer is they don't know it. That is the answer. They don't know it. They don't know how to use it. They're going to look like a fool. And especially if you're dealing with a seller, and in a luxury market, they probably are. They probably have a tile roof. And a barrel tile roof is a 50-year roof, guys. And here's another question to ask those people. Let me ask you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, if one of your little beautiful barrel tile breaks, does that mean your roof is compromised? It isn't, because that's just the pretty part of your roof. It's the underlayment that is actually, especially if it was a hot mop roof, that means it's the tar that was kept in place of your, that is where your roof is actually being protected. Has nothing to do with those tiles. Those are just pretty. So we could actually recertify your roof. We can even get that done before we put your home on the market. So that won't even come up as a question. You know how many people are going to talk about that? Nobody. Nobody. So if they are going to see somebody after you, they're going to look like an idiot. That's the point. We want to make sure that you look great and they don't. You're going to come in looking like the expert. And then we're going to make sure that every date is filled in or not, because we want to know if someone's going to turn in something and they're going to leave that percentage rate empty on the contract. Is that a good or a bad thing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? What do you think? They're going to be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And they're going to say, well, we want to know, because if they leave it blank, that means that if the percentage rate goes past a certain point, that they can't cancel based on that. So we don't mind if it's blank, but they've just left their buyer out in the cold. We're okay with that. But see, they now know that. So if they ask the next person that, the next person is not going to know that. They don't know what that rate is for. They have no idea, because they don't know the contract. They probably haven't even read that. Now, do you guys know what it is really based on? It says if based on the prevailing rate, based on their credit worthiness, right? Yeah, well, what if their credit worthiness changes? But you marked it at 6.25 and their credit worthiness changes, and now their credit worthiness is a 9%. It doesn't matter. They could have gotten out at the 6.25. That's why you got to mark that, because their credit worthiness can change in a second. What if they went out and bought a car? Oh, I don't know anybody who's done that. Right? That credit worthiness can change in a second. Well, they just decided they needed to go buy furniture for their house before they close. Right? Did that possibly change that credit worthiness when they rerun the credit right before closing? Yeah. And then their interest rate suddenly changes. People don't realize it's the prevailing rate based upon their credit worthiness, which changes when they go do something stupid like that. So that's why you got to write it in. So these are things that are really important that we need to know, and maybe they don't. So does anybody have any questions? Well, I hope you guys learned something, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thanks for joining. Bye.